Our club has always been a forum for public figures, thought leaders, and decision makers to share their ideas. Here, we offer access to dynamic political, business, and public personalities.
We are dedicated to encouraging debate on the issues that matter to this city, this province, and this country.
The Canadian Club is one of the most important podiums anywhere in the world that a Canadian can speak to, tell Canadians what it is that they think, develop those thoughts. And so I want to thank you for that very, very much.
Please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists today.
Through our programs and events, including our youth and young leaders programs, our diversity partnerships, our joint events, and our media and social media opportunities, we offer you access to dynamic political, social, and business figures from abroad and right here at home.
The platform from which the eloquence of Canada has flowed all of that time, whether it be business, education, politics, sports, arts, and culture. If someone wants to say something to Canadians about this country and about the future of this country, this is the venue you choose.
Hello, everyone. My name's David Simmons. I'm president of the Canadian Club Toronto, and I'm your host for today's event. We're very happy to welcome a physically distanced, fully vaccinated group of Canadians to our third in-person event in our 125th season. And what a room it is that we have gathered here. We have cabinet ministers, we have mayors, we have city councillors, deputy ministers, consuls general from all around the world, here to hear from two great leaders in our transportation business. Thank you for being here today. We're delighted also to welcome hundreds of guests online, joining us virtually to partake in this conversation. We appreciate you taking the time to be here as well. As you watch today's event, please engage with us on social media. Hashtags are appearing on your screen if you're online. They're also on your table if you would like to look at the cue cards. You're about to learn more about how Bombardier is redefining its mission and vision and what role Ontario is going to play in driving the company forward. Ontarians have a lot to be excited about today. Many great insights will be shared during the fireside chat. I'm sure many of you will have questions. If you're in the room, you can note them on the Q&A cards on your table. We will collect them during the address and share them with the moderator. For those of you joining remotely, we invite you to hit the Submit a Question button on the right side of your screen. It's been a while, and questions will be shared with the moderator. Let me acknowledge today's sponsor, TD. We appreciate your generous support. Without the support of you and sponsors like you, the Canadian Club would not be able to exist. Robust conversations happen because of your commitment to us. So thank you. And please join me in welcoming Mr. Bob Durance, Executive Chair at TD Securities, to formally introduce our speakers. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, David. I too can do squeen. So this will be brief. And just so I'm introducing both Eric and Deborah. So we'll do Eric first because he's going to be speaking, and then Deborah and Eric are doing a Q&A session. So welcome all to the Canadian Club Toronto. It's great that everybody is here, and David's very enthusiastic about how we continue to do this, and that's good. I'm very happy to be able to introduce Éric Martel, President and CEO of Bombardier, and Deborah Flint, President and CEO of the Greater Toronto Airport Authority. I've had the pleasure of meeting Éric when he joined Hydro-Québec in 2015. I watched and as did everybody, certainly a few were in the province of Quebec, but probably outside the province of Quebec as well, as he provided very strong leadership to that organization and laid the foundation for Hydro-Quebec's fairly exciting announcements more recently in New York and in New England. Éric joined Bombardier in March of 2020, or maybe April. He was telling me the same day World Health Organization declared the global pandemic. Same day that Premier Legault announced that they were doing a shutdown in Quebec. So I don't think there was no correlation, Eric, just one of those timing things. But he has extensive experience in engineering, aerospace, and history with Bombardier. He came from Bombardier to Hydro-Quebec. So after 5 years at Hydro-Quebec, he's returning to his roots, and I think that's been very critical. He's been working on refocusing the company, building the company, and laying the strategy out for future growth, and I'll leave that up to Eric to talk about. I know we're looking forward to hearing the Bombardier story, Eric, your transition to a total aviation-focused company, aviation both building and service, with a vision for the future. So, bienvenue à Ontario. Merci d'être ici aujourd'hui. That's my equivalent of squeen. And we're equally pleasured to have Deborah Flint here as well, President and CEO, as I mentioned, of the GTAA. Her leadership began as well at the GTAA at the beginning of the pandemic. She has led Pearson admirably during this period, which has been very difficult, and Pearson, or the airport, has overall been awarded the Healthy Airport Program. Won an award, I should say. Prior to this, she was the CEO of Los Angeles World Airports, 24 years of experience serving in executive roles in the aviation industry. She served on the board of the Federal Reserve Bank and is a director of the Honeywell Corporation. So please join me in warmly welcoming Eric and Deborah.
So good afternoon, everyone. My colleague and I are delighted to have you with us today. As it's been a long time due, probably, that a CEO of Bombardier came here to Toronto to talk about the business. Actually, we're trying to, go back in history. That's probably 15 years or more. But we're delighted because we do have a very strong presence here. Our facility has about 2,000 people in Downsview today, and as you know, we're moving to the Pearson Airport sometime in 2023. Actually, this morning, we'll talk about it later. We were on the site, witnessing the construction that is progressing extremely well. Before I get started, I'll play a small video which basically pictured the Global 7500, which we are actually building here. And the Global 7500, we have to be altogether very proud. This is the flagship airplane, not just of Bombardier, but this is also the flagship airplane of the entire business traveling industry. This is the airplane that goes further, higher, faster than any other airplane. It is a 4-zone cabin. So I'll show you the video, and then we'll definitely get through the presentation. So. Thank you. We should all be very proud. As I said, we're building this airplane here in Canada. And I always like to say that there's probably 5 countries in the world that can build an airplane from A to Z. There's not that many, and we are one of them. And also, if you're interested to buy one, we can take order right after launch. Good. So I think it's important, we did a major restructuring at Bombardier during the pandemic. And I think everybody were focused on their TV watching the different stats. So maybe, we thought it was a good thing to refresh everybody's memory in terms of where we are today. But Bombardier today is a leading company purely in business jet aviation, a pure play. We don't, manufacture airplane anymore for airline like we used to. We're not in the train business anymore, so if there's an issue here in Toronto about the train, don't call me, I cannot do anything anymore. And we have a fully refreshed portfolio going into, right now. So we have this airplane that we just talked about. We have announced a month ago our new Challenger 3500. We still have 13,000 people in our company today. 2,000 of them are here in the Greater Toronto. But also, we always like to say that probably for every one of our employees, there's an employee at one of our suppliers. So probably the impact of being present here is about 4,000 jobs. And as you know, they're well-paid jobs. We'll come back on that. We have also 5,000 business jets, flying everywhere in the world. So we show our product, not just in Canada and in the US, of course, we show our product everywhere. If you go to Africa, if you go to any country in the world, you will see where we stand. We're a company of about $5.6 billion US because our numbers are in US, and we're growing to $7.5 billion. I'll get back to that in US also by 2025, and with the ambition of having an Ebitda at 20%. Just maybe rapidly, these are the results we announced last week. This was our third quarter. So as you can see, our revenue have grown from $1.2 billion to $1.4 billion. We're taking out 0.2 here because this is business we don't have anymore. But the most important piece is the Ebitda. So our profitability went from 84 to 142 million, which is about 9.8%. And our ambition is to grow this to 20 by 2025. But also our free cash flow usage. This was a big challenge for a company, our balance sheet. And we've addressed it. We've paid down $3 billion of debt since the beginning of the year, and we have clear goals, over the next few years. But we, as a company, are generating cash now. So this is something that we were probably planning to happen more next year, but I can probably claim right now we're ahead of plan. So first, we've been executing our plan perfectly. I have to say my team has done an amazing job, and also right now we are getting tailwind from the market. A lot of people today that cannot fly a segment because an airline has canceled a segment, or they want to fly more safely. They are trying and enjoying actually flying on a business jet. Which leaves at the moment you want. You're going to be with your family alone, safer. So clearly we've seen a lot of people. Fleet operator, which is a lot of our customer are fleet operator like NetJet that Warren Buffett owns. It is an airline. They have 550 business jets flying all around the world. They're just one example. We have 3 big customers that are in that similar situation. But they've seen their customer list growing by 35 to 40% because people are now adapting this new model of traveling with a business jet. So interesting picture and good timing for us as we were basically restructuring our company. We still have a global presence. I won't go through all of them, but we are significantly growing also our service business. To achieve our 7.5 billion of revenue by 25, we're going to grow the service business, which is a very lucrative business for us, from $1.2 billion to $2 billion US. So you can see here we have a spread, we have a presence on all continents. We have facility, and we're building in our service business today new facility. We are actually now finishing the building of a huge service center of about 400,000 square feet in London. We have one building in Australia, we have actually quadrupling the space we have in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. So a stronger presence clearly all around the world, and this is happening as we speak. Actually, also the one in Singapore is quadrupling. So I was there when we started that facility in 2011 and 12, and today it's been very successful. And I know that there's some people from Singapore here today, but we've been building and growing that facility quite significantly. So one question that I get all the time is, okay, Bombardier is doing business jet, but who is your competitor? Who are your competitor? If you look at the first 9 months of this year, and you look at the market share of the deliveries, so we, Bombardier, delivered 25% of the airplane this year in the market that we're competing in. Gulfstream delivered 24, Textron 23, Embraer 16, okay, and then you see the others. Even Dassault, which used to be a big competitor, is only 4%. But I think also one of the reasons why we did, and we've announced last year in our restructuring, that we were not going to produce the Learjet family anymore. So we're melting down that production line in Wichita. And the reason is that, you know, the medium and large segment represent 90% of the revenue of the whole business aircraft world. So if you look at it by revenue and not by deliveries, you look at Bombardier, we're 39%, and Gulfstream 37%. So between us and Gulfstream, we are the two dominating players. We're pretty much 75 to 80% of the whole business aircraft market with the medium and large segment. So we're in a unique position. You know, we are, with Gulfstream, the two biggest players out there in business jet, and we have an amazing product portfolio to be able to compete. And this year, clearly, we've been revamping our backlog. You know, we've been filling backlog, which was a problem for the last 5 years, but clearly over the last years, we've been in a position to have quite extensive backlog, which brings stability and visibility on our business. And if you look at the in-service fleet, the pie chart to the right, clearly our fleet is about 5,000 airplanes, which is about 31% of all the airplane flying in the medium and large segment. And again, you see those circles. I won't get into all detail here, but Bombardier, in terms of presence, we're everywhere in the world. And you can see that we're either number one or number two. So if you look at North America, clearly, you know, this is, you know, Gulfstream is our biggest competitor, but we have 32%, you know, of the fleet, and our competitor has about 34%. So we're number two. But, you know, this is U.S. territory where the biggest market is, and Gulfstream is in the U.S. So, but we're only 2% behind these guys in North America. If you look at Europe, we're number two also, and this is Dassault's territory, of course. So they have 34%, we have 33%. So despite that, you know, we're not European and we're not American, we've been very, very close in those two big markets. And then if you look around the world, Russia, Latin America, Africa, Middle East, and Asia Pacific, we're number one. So a very strong presence of being number one or number two all around the world and representing our country. This is our plan, basically in number, and this is where we want to bring this company. And our plan right now, as I mentioned, is we're actually a bit ahead. You know, not to a point where we will think about changing target, because the target, you know, the market can also change, but we are feeling very confident that we can achieve our business growing from 5.6 to 7.5 billion. And look also at the spread of revenue. Our service business, which is about 18% of revenue today, will grow to 27%. And this is a very resilient business. Even if there is a downturn or something, we will have a business that, you know, still generate, you know, revenue and profit. You see our Ebitda. This year we guided for something a bit more than 575. We're clearly in a good position to achieve better than that, but we're targeting $1.5 billion by 2025, and all the actions and the game plan, you know, to achieve that is actually delivering right now. I think one thing that we need to position our company to extremely well, and last week we published our first ESG plan. And we have clear goal, you know, and they're not like in 2060, they're in 2025. So, you know, most of us will be around to witness us achieving this, and we feel pretty comfortable. We want to reduce our green gas emission by 25% as a company. Actually, the new site we're going to have here in Toronto is reducing green gas emission by 50%. So moving from the actual site to the new site will give us 50% reduction in green gas emission. You know, we want to reduce lost time accident for our people. We want to have more women in management. Today we're at about 24%. We want to be greater than 30. So we're definitely working hard. And I have Dan Branham here, our VP HR, supporting and leading us through that. And of course, employee engagement. The employee engagement was difficult at Bombardier. We've been through some tough years. And clearly, I think if you want to be successful, you need motivated people, people that are engaged. And I always say that the 13,000 people that we have, if they are well informed and feel good about the company, they're the best ambassador that we can have out there to talk about our company. So this is a bit the game plan for the next 10 years. Clearly, you know, the job that we have, also I mentioned the 2,000 job here in Toronto are usually very well paid. 85,000 on average is the salary our people are getting. So our investment in R&D also over the last few years have been massive. And when our industry develop a program, a new program, which we will eventually do, there's nothing announced right now, but eventually we'll need to develop new airplane. Those are substantial investment that need support. And, but, you know, we are working and thinking about this, assessing what our competitors are doing, but eventually we'll get there. And, you know, we've patented since 2010 almost 300 new inventions that do belong to us. If you look at the new Pearson facility, so this is, first of all, we're extremely proud. This is a Bombardier-funded project, 100%. This is a 400 or, if you prefer, $500 million Canadian for a new state-of-the-art facility. We're going to be producing all the global product, you know, what we call the green airplane, and then the interior finishing is done in a completion center in Montreal. This is 42 acres of lease at the Pearson facility, and this is long-term. So our commitment today to this community is not just, you know, for the next 5 years. We have a lease until 2056, so we'll be around for a long time, and with the job that, of course, it brings with it. So, and clearly, just our annual spend on material from this facility is about $2.5 billion US every year. So that's quite substantial in terms of, and the 2,000 job, I already talked about that. So that's what it is. And on the sustainability, actually, I mentioned the lower GHG emission by more than half. This is going to be reducing water use. This is going to be 10% reduction in lightning costs. So there's a lot of benefit of this new facility that also we're going to be bringing forward. So let me play, I think it's the next one is the video. So if I'm not mistaken, this is a video of our Challenger 3500 that we just announced. So this airplane, that we call the Challenger 3500, is a derivative of an airplane that was initially called the Challenger 350 and developed in the early 2000s. But this is also something very important for Bombardier to be able to refresh its product line on a regular basis. So, and we're famously renowned having the best interior, and I always like to tell my team the interior is the most important thing, because the guy that buys the airplane is sitting in the back most of the time. Some are pilot, but it's a minority. So the interior on this one is amazing, and we got a good response. We launched it, I think it was September 15, 14, something like that. We were at the Las Vegas Air Show a couple of weeks ago, and that airplane actually is selling extremely well, since we launched it in September. So we're in a good place. So thanks for listening to me. Now I'm going to go and answer the difficult question that Deborah has for me.
Yes. When am I getting a ride on that new Challenger? It looks fantastic. Welcome. Thanks. It's great to see everyone here. With Eric, I feel like we're a dynamic duo, Eric.
It is.
What we represent, when we think about it, very few countries can boast in the way that you just have. Number one, the ability to fully manufacture aircraft within a country. And then, of course, for Team GTAA and Pearson Airport, very few countries have an airport that is one of the top gateways to their continent. So, we have something that really is the envy of cities and countries around. And I think Mayor Crombie also is the envy of many mayors because of the way she has championed Aerospace in Mississauga. So we have a lot to be proud of as we sit here this afternoon. We know that the intersection of the jobs that are created, the reputation and the legacy that aviation has really strengthens economies. So we also know that's very competitive out there. At Toronto Pearson, we're very focused on creating the airport of the future. So I'm interested to hear from you, Eric. What does the future of the aerospace industry look like?
I think our industry is clearly under transformation right now. I don't know if we're going to go back to what it used to be. I doubt. Our industry, if I speak about Bombardier, we're a pure play business aircraft company today. We clearly see this capability for us to grow significantly. I was talking about the fleet operator today that managed that, but I think our industry is going to be different. I think it's good for us, our presence here in Toronto. I think if the business aircraft market is still progressing, now that we are going to be at the Pearson Airport, I think this is going to bring traffic. This is going to bring people. And it's not just about the job. We bring people in the hotel. Pilot come in here to inspect their airplane and do different things. So I think it's important that we do realize as a nation, though, that we have an industry that is, and we should not take it for granted, because other countries are trying very hard, and very capable country. Not to mention Japan, not to mention China. They've been trying for years to build an airplane. And I need to mention Russia too, but it's been challenging. So we can do it from A to Z. This is a skill set that we have in this country, capability. So we should definitely make sure we preserve it, as I think the demand overall will continue to grow, as there's more people. So but I think people will expect a different experience at some point. And I think we have to be mindful of that. We have to always tell my team, most important thing is to listen to the customer. What do they want? What do they anticipate? It's interesting about amongst a group of experts to have the conversation, but what are they looking for? And I think our industry, private aviation, brings new way of traveling, more on time, more choice, offer more flexibility, and clearly a safer way to travel if you travel with your family. So.
You mentioned that Bombardier is making this investment into the facilities here, 500 million Canadian dollars. So, how do you think about the ecosystem and what it needs to do to support that investment paying off by spades. We know that government doesn't always need to come to the table with money, right? There are other ways that governments can support. What have you seen elsewhere around the world that has provided that competitive advantage that you would like to see happen here in Canada as well?
I think sometimes the entire system, as you said, around having schools. We're going to face a major challenge here. We're staying in the Greater Toronto area, but we have about 50% of our employees today that are 55 years old and up on the shop floor. So our plan right now is to work with the different local schools to get younger people to join this industry. So I think from a government point of view, having their support to make sure that these schools exist, to make sure that we are promoting our industry within the school so that we can attract people is very important. And I think we always have to watch what the other countries are doing. We want to make sure that our industry, which is very unique again, could be competitive. My main two competitors right now are Gulfstream and they are Dassault. And if you look at the type of government support, it takes different forms. Some of them, it's very much by military investment. So they can develop a new cockpit from a military application and just use it eventually to compete with us. We don't do that. I have to develop it, spend millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to do the same thing. And same thing, with Dassault in France. They have a fighter division, they have the Falcon, but clearly their government is very supportive. Last year, they sold 15 airplanes. The government purchased 8 of them. So that's the industry we're in, and last year was a bit of an exception, clearly, for the reason we know. But I think it's important for our government to watch also what kind of support they're getting so that we are not, in a position, a weaker position to compete with these guys.
Well, and let's think about the challenge that's right in front of us as an industry as well. Yesterday, the United Nations Conference on Climate began, right, the COP26. For us at Toronto Pearson, we've had a very strong history of investing in emission reduction programs at the airport. And this is a very important change for the industry. You laid out some very lofty goals, ones that are very quick and they're demonstrable, which is very important for the entire ecosystem. What do you see as necessary for the aviation sector to be not just perceived, but to be actually cleaner and greener? What's the ecosystem? What's the support needed to make that transition?
So I think it starts, and that's what we publish, our ESG plan. But this is what we do control, as a company. So make sure we're heating our facility, with more efficiency, producing less emission. But at the same time, we're part of a global industry. And we all know any airplane, create emissions. So one of the things that Bombardier is doing, there's twofold. First, we are leading an effort right now in our industry to make sure that sustainable fuel are available. Because we all know that, first of all, on any of the Bombardier airplane today, you can, fly these airplanes using these sustainable fuel, which will reduce your emission right away by about 30%. So then the question is, why is not everybody doing that? So they're more expensive, those fuel to use, and they're just not available. It's very difficult. There's very, very few airports in the world where even if you want to say, is there any sustainable fuel around here? Most of the time, the answer is no. So clearly, I think we are pushing very, very hard our industry. We signed up last week, 2 weeks ago with Signature, which is an FBO well-known. They do exist in most of the airports in North America, to have a partnership with them to make sure that this sustainable fuel become available. Because if everybody would fly, with sustainable fuel tomorrow, we could save right away our industry 30 to 40%. But the demand is not orchestrated. There's a lot of work to do, but we could get there. The second thing we do at Bombardier is, right now I have to say that more than 90% of our R&D budget is focused on the airplane of the future. How is it going to look like? So we feel that we could get, just by changing the shape of the airplane, another 15, maybe 20% less emission by by improving the shape of the airplane using less fuel, plus if you put the sustainable fuel on top of it. So our industry is not at the end of the road here. We have a lot of capabilities and a lot of things we could do together. So there's things that we perfectly control ourselves, but there's things we don't, but we'll clearly play a leadership role to influence that.
Yeah, it's exciting times. Toronto Pearson, we are a signatory as part of the United Nations to their Clean Skies Initiative, and we'll sign that agreement as part of the Glasgow meetings over the course of the next few days. And it's a commitment to sustainable aviation fuel, right? Drop-in capabilities, but I think that's a message to all of the leaders, business and government that are here today, that in order for the industry to continue to thrive and to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, we do have to solve for that sustainable aviation fuel. And it's a ripe and open field for that to happen. So, certainly encourage everyone to think about that. On the aircraft side, one of the questions that came in is, what about electric planes? Do we see that in the future?
Mm-hmm. So, it depends what airplane we're talking about. So if you feel of an airplane that can, I don't know, fly 100 miles, then I think we could see a fully electrical plane. But if you think of an airplane like we do make at Bombardier, that flies 17 hours or something like that, so you can fly from Australia to the US, we're very far from that. Okay, so there's no technology today that may even, I know that people would prefer me to say that but this is the truth. If you look at the real expert, the engineers that we have, you will put a lot of weight with batteries or fuel cell or whatever the technology you're looking into on the airplane, making this impossible. So this is really a lot of work still have to do. But again, I think that if every industry in the world are thinking about reducing emission by 30 to 40 to 50%, like we could do today probably with existing technology, or we're very close to, that will be a long way. We will go a long way. So we can try to hit the home run and try to go to zero, but I think we're many, many, many years away from that, having an engine that can take off, the extra weight powered by pure electrical. There'll be a lot more electrical. When I was talking about an airplane that can probably take maybe 17, 20% less, I'm not talking even about the engine here, just the airplane itself, and there is more electrical. So there is system already today that are more electrical. But if people think of an airplane that is 100% electrical with engine, then we have a lot of R&D to do before we get there.
No doubt. And there's so many tools that we can put through this as an industry,
Really?
right? So in addition to the type of aircraft, it's more efficient, it's quieter, right? The flight paths are also getting more efficient through investments that we're making in the airspace. And we have some exciting new aircraft procedures that are coming into Toronto Pearson that are highly more efficient and save a lot of fuel as well. So that's pretty exciting. So let's talk about leadership and people as we come down to the end of our time. We both started leading iconic Canadian companies right before COVID. What timing on our part, our dynamic duo situation. One of the last projects that I did at LAX as part of a $15 billion modernization was to purchase a Bombardier train.
Wow.
And so that will be serving LAX, and I know they're not calling you now that Bombardier is a pure play
I changed
aircraft.
my number, just in case.
I know, yes. But so as leaders, whether it's in our former lives or current lives, this is a time about really leading transformational change. And it's very challenging. In the heart of a crisis, it's somewhat easier to impress upon our teams how important transformational change is. But as we emerge out of this crisis, it might be more challenging. What do you anticipate your headwinds are ahead of you?
But clearly, we went through the major restructuring. It was a difficult year. The last couple of years for our employee were very demanding. We are now in a different place. So the fact that the company is in a better place, I can feel it right away. I was walking one of the factory last week and the week before, and the employee are saying, it's great. We're happy to win again. So that's the first thing, and we're making tremendous effort to communicate with our employee. We did our earnings call last week. Yesterday, I did a French and an English, session of explaining to the entire management, which is probably 700 people in the entire company, what the results were. We give them Q&A. We're trying to be present. So I think people, are happy with where we're going. There's a lot of question mark right now, and they are concerned about, how will we deal with the return of the employee? Will we ever return? So there's a bunch of question out there, and we're in new territory altogether. So, we feel that we're going to have to be, I always think that listening to our people is the best thing. We're doing it. We're doing a survey actually right now, plus whatever we hear every day about how they feel that return should happen. A lot of them say, I want to come into work. Some of them say, I enjoy it a lot. So it's going to be probably a bit of an hybrid solution. How do we deal with vaccination will be, so this is a bit the short term. But I think if you look longer term, we really, and you saw we have a clear target of engagement, measure engagement in the organization. And we say often engagement, but it's also enablement. The enablement of our people is important. There's nothing more frustrating for an employee to come into work in the morning and not have the right tools or the right system or the right this and say, I could do it in an hour and now it takes me 8 hours. So our employees don't like that. So it's very important that we do enable them. We provide them the right tools in all sense and make sure that we listen to them. So I think also there's I was talking about the retirement and everything, the demographic that we have. This is another major challenge we're facing. And the new people coming in will have different expectation. I was traveling with my team last week, 3 weeks ago, in the US. And we have the same phenomenon. This is our service center. We need to attract new people, but they have different expectation. They're less interested about the pension fund, but they want to have better wage. So we have to be, as an organization, enough flexible to listen to what they want. And very often within the envelope that we have, we can manage. But it's just about a flexibility. And sometimes big company like ours, are very, say, oh, this is the way it works. It's been working like this 25 years. But I think we're going to have to change as leader our attitude and be more flexible also.
Right. And the last question, we know that share owners in particular are very serious about ESG, and you referenced that. Some of the conversation we just had is around that. And it's with the expectation that companies that are more diverse actually perform better. Right? Analysis is so critical in the types of decisions that companies like ours have to make. And so the prism, you have to have that diverse element in order to make great decisions and get varying perspectives. But as an industry, it's very challenging. People oftentimes are not even aware of the types of jobs and opportunities that are available in our sector. Lastly, how would you view the progress of the industry of Bombardier to becoming more diverse? And what can everyone in this room do to help contribute to
Progress have been too slow, I think. Progress have been too slow. I don't think we're tapping into all the talent that could be accessible. So one of the things we're doing at Bombardier is we bring every year now 1,000 interns. And we're making sure that the intern represent much better, the population that we're in, and I think it's been very successful. And actually, the level of retention of those interns is very strong. So we were aggressive, but I think people come in, they work for a semester with us, they like it. Sometimes they say, it's not for me, but most of the time they say, I'd like to come back. And it's an opportunity for us to see how they're doing and to make sure that if there's a good match there on both sides, then I think we can offer them a tremendous career in our company. A company of our size, there's a lot of things you can do. If you want to work internationally at Bombardier, that's pretty easy. You've seen the map earlier. You can have an international career. If you want to be in sales, you want to be in finance, so there's a lot of possibility about all the things we can offer. So I think it's going to be important over the next coming years that we spend time, with, the different school. I'm thinking university also, but college also for technician, to make sure we understand what they want and make sure that we are prepared and ready to have them joining. Different and diversity will be key. It's actually, and I think we need, one thing that we're pretty clear is we'll need immigration also to support us. Otherwise, I think we're going to have a huge challenge, And it's not just here in Canada, by the way. I see the same thing in our U.S. factory.
Yeah, indeed. As we close, there is it can seem like these problems are so big and beyond any of us, and you have to be the CEO that has a 1,000-person intern program. But actually, can you start with just one, right? One intern.
Absolutely.
Each person has the ability to take one action 5 or 10, and those can make existential differences for our competitiveness. It's a historic day for us today to celebrate Bombardier's investment here at Pearson in Ontario, in Toronto, and Mississauga. And so, thank you for that. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Deborah. It was a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Real pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martel. Ms. Flint, I'm Amanda Galbraith. I'm a director with the Canadian Club of Toronto and also a principal at Navigator. I'm going to borrow Deborah's words, and I think certainly they were a dynamic duo today. I had the pleasure of seeing them this morning as well at the event, and I must say, if you haven't taken a look, it's all over the news, but it is huge, it's impressive. The fact that Bombardier is here today to say they're investing $500 million in Mississauga and Toronto and the GTA, that those jobs are here to stay, I think is an important thing for our recovery as a country. It's a recovery, as a region, Ontario, and I for one was thrilled and loved the discussion we had. So that's fantastic. And also Deborah, I know she's a new leader here in the GTA. We're going to hear a lot more from her, I think. And I think a big part of Ontario's recovery is a strong GTAA, it's a strong Pearson. So something we'll be looking forward to as well. All right, some housekeeping. So before we close, I would also like to extend another thanks to today's sponsor, which is TD. Thank you very much for that. Let me also take this opportunity to invite our audiences to join us for our next event tomorrow, Wednesday, November 3rd. We will discuss what's next for cryptocurrency with an esteemed panel of blockchain founders and thought leaders led by Alex Tapscott, Managing Director of 9 Point Partners. And on Thursday, November 4th, we will celebrate Financial Literacy Month, something I'm not familiar with, but I will be tuning in to figure that out, with a brilliant panel of financial experts who will discuss the financial challenges Canadians are facing, some amazing solutions that are coming to the fore, and the need for a comprehensive national strategy. We hope you can join us for both of those virtual events. You can tune in from your pajamas, which I do quite frequently nowadays. All right, let me conclude our time together by thanking LiveMeeting.ca, Canada's online event space, and VBC for live streaming today's event. Thank you for being here with us today. Those joining us online, we appreciate your continued support of the club. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.